It is always fascinating to study the way Security Breach was developed, the troubles Steel Wool has faced, and the amount of things that were cut out from the final product. Of course, with such a turbulent game development cycle, it's not surprising that some character arcs in the story have suffered a lot. And this can be seen on the examples of Freddy and Gregory, as we have talked in the previous videos. With the story that we got, both of them made decisions that left us with questions, as if some parts of the story were missing or changed. Despite this, they are still characters that have a lot of screen time and that we know a lot about. But alas, this cannot be said about Vanessa. If the only media that you will play or watch is Security Breach, then after a while you might even forget that Vanessa was in the game at all, which is not something you would want for one of the main characters in your story. Fortunately, Vanessa's story begins in Help Wanted 1, where she is the main protagonist, and in Special Delivery. Help Wanted 1 mainly focuses on setting up Vanessa's background, as well as how Glitchtrap has turned into the menace we know, and how he was affecting those who succumbed to his influence. It all starts when Vanessa is hired to beta test a brand new game, the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience. And she quickly begins to discover that she is not the first beta tester, and that the previous testers encountered some unusual problems. One of the testers began to record tapes as a diary, and through these tapes Vanessa learns about an unknown entity, that we know today as Glitchtrap. The woman who recorded these tapes is called simply Tape Girl, and this is where both we and Vanessa learn about Glitchtrap and how he can affect people.
Jeremy complained of nightmares when he came in this morning. He wasn't talking about it like someone telling a friend about his dreams though. He was pale, looked like he hadn't eaten in days. He spent an hour talking in Dale's office, but it didn't look like he was given much sympathy. When he came out, he went directly back to the testing room. He doesn't even jump anymore, nothing scares him. He just stands there like he's talking to someone. Sometimes he rocks from side to side. We were told to leave him alone.
Tape Girl assumed that the company wants to get rid of Jeremy and discredit him, because he has seen something. And unfortunately, that didn't end well for him.
There was something that looked like a Halloween mask laying on the floor. I didn't understand. Ink must have spilled. It was only then that I heard a shuffle from the testing room and realized Jeremy must be there. I went back and peered in the window. I couldn't see his face. He had the visor covering his head. He had ink spilled on himself as well. The front of his shirt looked black in the dark room. He turned his head in my direction, but I don't think he knew I was there.
Glitchtrap tried to corrupt Jeremy, and supposedly Jeremy cut off his own face, using a guillotine paper slicer that was mentioned before in one of the tapes. It is unknown if he survived that, but Tape Girl had to take his place. Vanessa began to see Glitchtrap as well. With each tape she collected, Glitchtrap was becoming more visible and was moving closer and closer to her. In the latter tapes, it is revealed that Tape Girl discovered that Glitchtrap has latched onto her recordings, and she had to split them, so Glitchtrap wouldn't have much power. The last instructions that she gave to Vanessa were to let Glitchtrap start the merging process, and use the disconnect switch to restart the game in hopes that it will kill him. That did not go well, and Vanessa, or at least some part of her, has been trapped behind this massive door. Glitchtrap waves from the other side, makes his classic gesture, and disappears in the darkness. We will return to this door in Security Breach, but for now Vanessa is under his command and there wasn't much she could do. Later in the Dreadbear DLC, we can hear how Vanessa talks to Glitchtrap through his plushie.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No. There's no miscommunication. I understand. Yes, I have it. I made it myself. I think you would like it. No one suspects anything. Don't worry. I'll be ready. And I won't let you down. It will be fun.
She sounded hesitant. This hesitance might be showing that Vanessa is still not fully on board with Glitchtrap, or has some sort of autonomy, as if she is a reluctant follower. That was her code name when Steelwool were searching for a voice actress. This is who she was supposed to be in Security Breach. Someone who follows orders, but doesn't want to do them. The DLC ends with the construction of the Pizzaplex beginning on the background, teasing Security Breach, but we are not there yet. We also have special delivery, in particular the emails that were sent to players, as they sometimes contained some lore messages between different employees. Some of the messages were sent from Louis, Phasma Entertainment marketing employee, to Vanessa, who in these emails is called Ness.
Hey, Ness, I wanted to see if you're doing okay. I do have to keep checking online activity periodically after getting a red flag report, and I was a little worried maybe something is going on with you? One day you're researching the migration pattern of bees, and the next day you type in, how far can a human being be cut in half before losing consciousness? I figured maybe you're writing a screenplay or something. But it was a little startling to see it written out. I hope you know I'm always here if you need me.
We can clearly see how disturbing her tendencies were sometimes becoming, and how her search history was raising red flags in the company. She was also seen talking to Glitchtrap, just like Jeremy was.
Hey, Ness. Is everything okay? I came by your desk to say hi today, and I don't think you even heard me. You had your face so close to the screen, that can't be good for your eyes. I waited for a second to see if you would turn around, but it was like you were in another world. I thought you were on a conference call at first, because I heard voices.
But despite being under Glitchtrap's influence, Vanessa definitely was left with some part of her mind free. At least I doubt that Glitchtrap would make Vanessa to search for the migration patterns of bees. She was also capable of maintaining dialogues without raising suspicions, so outside of rare occurrences, Vanessa appeared to other people as a normal person. Judging by the dialogue that she had with Glitchtrap in Help Wanted 1, we can say that this is the time when she created the costume that she will wear later when becoming Vanny. And with that we are slowly moving to Security Breach. The amount of promotion Vanessa and Vanny were getting before the release of Security Breach made it seem like they were going to be a very important part in the story. In the trailers, Vanessa was shown as almost our ally, while Vanny was being promoted as some gigantic threat.
Gregory, we can get you out of here. You and me together. They won't stop hunting you. None of them will stop hunting you. We have to get you out by morning.
But the way Vanny and Vanessa turned out to be in Security Breach is one of the biggest wasted potentials in FNAF history. Although the start of the game was promising, Gregory hides in Freddy's room and Vanessa already searches for him. He tells Freddy that he doesn't trust her, and it already feels like we have some sort of a history here. Or it is most likely that we already see how some pieces of the story are missing. Some speculate that there was supposed to be some cutscene or a game segment that would show us why Gregory doesn't trust Vanessa. But as far as I know, there's no proof that there was supposed to be anything like this. What's strange here is that Gregory says that Vanessa cut Freddy off from the main network, but this plays into Gregory's favor much more often than in hers. Still, nothing bad has happened yet, and after searching for Gregory in Rockstar Row, Vanessa moves into the utility tunnels. And when she calls him, she sounds very peaceful and kind.
Hello, little boy. If you're down here, say something.
It's just a mask that will slip off later. From here she alerts Glamrocks, which means that she is in full control of them and makes them do Glitchtrap's bidding. Something that Gregory was doing in GGY and escaped the Pizzaplex. The only one who is non-compliant is Freddy, but she doesn't know about that yet. Later, Sun raises an alarm in the daycare when Gregory pisses him off, and we see how Vanessa, now Vanny, is going there to check it out. Gregory barely escapes and goes on a search for different exits. There are a few interesting messages that can be found in the meantime. For instance, one of them is about Vanessa not being suitable for her job.
As requested, here are my notes on today's Chief Security Officer interview. While Vanessa seemed eager and bright, she doesn't appear to have any relevant background experience. I realize the recommendation came from the top, but we need someone who has run security for a facility of this scale. I do not recommend her for this position.
The fact that the order was given from the top and that the message was marked for deletion shows just how deep Glitchtrap's corruption has gone. Of course, some people began to notice things, and here comes a whole series of messages from different employees about a staff meeting in the cafeteria. We can visit this cafeteria and see that this staff meeting was a trap, and it's not hard to guess who was behind it. Vanessa catches Gregory a bit later after he checks one of the side exits. Curiously, Vanessa just locks him in Lost and Found, and arrives as Vanny only after talking to him through the screens.
I'll bet you think you're real clever, Gregory. Yeah, I know your name. You're in big trouble. This is not the night to be wasting my time. So, you are going to wait right there in Lost and Found until your parents or the police arrive.
Are you having fun yet?
A possible explanation here is that she still struggles against Glitchtrap, and it can take him some time to force her to do something she doesn't want to. Or, as a much less popular explanation, there is a theory that at some point in development of Security Breach, Vanessa and Vanny could have been separate characters. More on that later. She also says this sentence as if this night in particular is important, which can be, again, some part of the story that was never realized. When Vanessa turns into Vanny, she becomes a completely different person. Her tired demeanor changes into someone who playfully enjoys your fear, and will dismember you into pieces while maniacally laughing. This is the part of the game where Vanny shines. You run from her searching for Freddy, you found him and had to go to the backstage booth, where Vanny will catch you if you linger there for too long. Then she will stalk you in the atrium when you are trying to get the stage elevator up and running. And this is probably how Vanny should have been present throughout the game. Unfortunately, this is the last time we see her. Okay, there's gonna be one more time in the sewers, but it's so easy to not notice that we will not count that one. So we have a half of the game ahead of us, and the main villain is not gonna be in there. At least that's not everything for Vanessa. Moon catches Freddy and Vanessa begins interrogation, where she tries to push and threaten him, in hopes that he will give up Gregory's whereabouts.
His name is Gregory. You know how I know that? His Fazwatch kept repeating in your voice. Gregory, are you there? Gregory?
Vanessa, all the Fazwatches sound like me. It is the default voice option.
If you're part of this, you're scrapped. Monty will run the shows until Parts and Service can slap your casing on a new endo. Hang out here for a while. I gotta find that kid.
This puts into perspective just how much power Vanessa and Glitchtrap actually have. They were able to get Vanessa to such a high position in the Pizzaplex, they got rid of problematic employees, they most likely were the ones who got rid of Bonnie, and they definitely can get rid of Freddy if needed. We can see it in the loading dock ending. After the interrogation, she leaves through the elevator to Rockstar Row, and presumably she lashes out on Roxy, since we can see Roxy crying right after Vanessa went through her room. She will be patrolling Rockstar Row after that, and we can hear how she is losing her patience with Gregory.
Come on out, you little monster. Ugh, I hate kids. Why, you little brat. I don't have time for this!
And from that point onward, Vanessa disappears from the story as well. We can find additional messages and notes about some things that happened before the events of the game. One of the messages talks about the mini DJ prototypes being on the loose, and Vanessa doesn't know what to do about it. which shows that either Vanessa is indeed unfit for her job, or maybe Glitchtrap told her not to do anything. Because it seems that DJs serve Glitchtrap, and the glass was broken from the inside. There is also a message about a police officer answering a call from the inside of the Pizzaplex. We know that some people became missing long before this night, so it could be that the call was from one of Vanny's victims. After upgrading Freddy with Roxy's eyes, we can find discs that hold recordings of some of Vanessa's therapy sessions, and they do make her character a little bit deeper, but Vanessa is not very talkative. Piece by piece we can gather that Vanessa had anxiety, she had an abusive father, she is working late, she sounds always tired, and there are again mentions of a costume that she makes, as well as some hints to Glitchtrap.
I know part of your job requires you to do online searches, but a routine audit of your search history has revealed that you're doing a little private searching on company time. Is that right?
I get breaks.
That's true. So, on your breaks, it looks like you were shopping for a costume. You purchased some fake fur material. What are you gonna make? What was that? Did you say the costume is a secret? Why is that?
I can't talk about this. He said he would always be watching. He could be here, or there, or anywhere in between.
Sometimes the conversations mention Vanessa's father, and here it becomes complicated, because it seems that while the therapist talks about Vanessa's father, Vanessa on the other hand talks about Glitchtrap.
He said he would always be watching. He could be here, or there, or anywhere in between.
Are you talking about your dad? Have those feelings come up again? I hate sounding like a broken record, but this is something you really need to resolve if you're ever going to be happy.
I have! I compartmentalized him. He's locked away.
No, that's not what I mean. You can't just ignore an issue. You have to face your memory of the experiences and process them so you can let it go. So you don't get triggered anymore. You can use a sort of self-dialogue to release these things.
I don't like doing that.
Well, okay. We'll get back to that. I'd really like to know something about this costume. What's it for?
It's possible that Glitchtrap has the same abusive personality and uses Vanessa's trauma to have an easier time to manipulate her. Or because it is mentioned that her father's nickname is Bill, which stands for William, some entertain the possibility that Vanessa is a daughter of William Afton. And because Glitchtrap tries to copy William Afton, that's why he has a leverage. Or if we are afraid that Vanessa being his daughter will break the timeline, an alternative to this is that she could be a daughter of Michael Afton. But then it would screw Michael's character by turning him into an abuser. Some also think that this stage of Staff Bots in Security Breach represents Afton's family, and that it was made by Vanessa. So Vanessa Afton is a possibility, but the most likely scenario is that it was an idea that was squandered when so many things about Vanessa were changed or cut. And now this narrative doesn't fit that much with the Mimic's storyline. When Gregory is on his way to leave the Pizzaplex, Vanessa comes to his frequency and tries to lure him back into the atrium. Her voice sounds slightly different, as if she is losing control and changes bit by bit into Vanny.
Hey, little man. Do you know what time it is? The doors are open. Why are you still here? You plan on moving in, or you just want a job? Maybe join the internship program. You would make a great security guard. Gregory, I think you deserve a reward. Go check the main stage.
Now that we are at the end, we can talk about the Princess Quest arcades. In the mobile version of Help Wanted 1, Princess Quest was a mini-game that granted an additional ending, where you play as Princess, find Glitchtrap, and he asks you to set him free, before the screen distorts. The princess in this game is most certainly Vanessa. Back in Security Breach, we find a few messages about Princess Quest. Some of them were just about the arcade itself, and that it was ported from some mobile game. But several of them have a rather obsessive mood. These messages prompt us to complete the Princess quest. In the final arcade, we get to the door that looks very similar to the one behind which Glitchtrap has trapped Vanessa. We open it and we get the canon ending, which is Vanessa being freed from Glitchtrap and getting rid of Vanny mask. Before that, the final thing that Vanessa has done as Vanny was an attempt to disassemble Freddy. And that's all for Vanessa and Vanny in Security Breach. So, with all that in mind, despite being promoted as some big deal, Vanessa was barely developed as a character, and Vanny was a threat only in one middle section of the game. We won't be talking about the reasons as to why Steel Wool had to cut a lot of stuff from the game, as it becomes repetitive on this channel. But who was Vanessa supposed to be? Luckily, we have trailers and cut voice lines to be able to make a guess. Remember the messages about Princess Quest? Well, it could be that they were written by Vanessa, as she had several voice lines about that. In some of them she talks to herself, in others it is unclear if she talks to Gregory or to Glitchtrap. But why would Glitchtrap even want her to find these arcades if they are the key to her freedom?
Look, I don't know where it is. Do you know how many arcade games there are? I'll find it eventually. I've looked everywhere. It's not here. I have the second key.
Also, a small fun bit is that while the writer of these obsessive messages is officially unknown, in my Russian localization the verbs were written as if the writer is a woman. It doesn't prove anything, but it was worth mentioning nonetheless. All this stuff about Vanessa possibly trying to get rid of Glitchtrap leads us to another theory. Since Vanessa was called a reluctant follower, it is speculated that she was supposed to be helping Gregory at some point of the game. And maybe she even was planned to be playable, because she had grunting and breathing lines for jumping and sprinting. Even if she wasn't supposed to be playable, Vanessa's role was definitely much more important than it is now. Security Breach trailer has her lines and cutscenes that are not in the final game. And she also had plenty of other lines. Some of them were supposed to show us that she is in control of Glamrox, and others had more talking to Glitchtrap.
Monty, Roxy, Chica, report. I don't know how to fix it. What am I going to do? If Freddy was working, we would have him by now. Okay, I didn't mean to. He walks through every security door as if he owns the place. No, I can find him. It won't be like the last one.
While Vanessa lost her plot importance, Vanny lost a lot of her crazy charm and lines that would hint us at Glitchtrap's presence. In fact, it is very strange that both Vanessa and Vanny lost all the lines that were related to Glitchtrap, and now Glitchtrap's presence in the game is almost non-existent.
Gregory, your friends are worried about you. They're here with me. Please come out. Gregory, I may have lost my temper earlier, but it was just a glitch. It won't happen again. It was just a glitch.
I see you.
In the past, when people thought that Burntrap is William Afton, it was speculated that Vanny was either trying to rebuild his body or worshipping him. But since it turned out to be the Mimic, this speculation can be put aside, and now it looks like she was just digging up Mimic's endo. Freddy's monologue in the sinkhole works with both options.
I know what this is. I have been here before. She brought me here. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I did not want to, but I had no choice.
Aside from all of this, there is a theory that Vanessa and Vanny were supposed to be two different people. The only evidence for that is one non-canon ending in Security Breach, where Vanny falls from the roof while Vanessa watches from the roof. But with all that we know about Vanessa, this looks more like a mistake on Steel Wool's part. I think we can see now just how much of a wasted potential Vanessa was. Of course, it's not too late to correct this and look at what Vanessa has in the books. Well, shit. Yes, there is no Vanessa in the books. Not a single appearance, cameo or mention. I guess Scott and his writers were just avoiding her like fire. In Ruin the situation is not much better, although it gives some food for thoughts. The Pizzaplex, being abandoned for so long, has many graffitis on its walls. And for some reasons there are several graffitis of Vanny. When Cassie watches the old footage from one of the cameras, she sees Vanny chasing Gregory and says that she has her mask, even though her mask looks different from the one that Vanny wears. It might be just a change of design, as Steel Wool has done plenty of such design inconsistencies already. This only proves further that the Princess Quest ending is the real one, because in this ending Vanessa throws the mask on the ground, so it could have been picked up by Jeremy later. Another thing that proves the Princess Quest ending is this golden sword inside the last Princess Quest arcade, in the place where Gregory won. But now we go to the most interesting part in Ruin. It is presumed that after being freed, Vanessa and Gregory went to the sinkhole under the Pizzaplex. They found the Mimic and had to trap him. For that they had to upgrade and reactivate mixes. We know that Vanessa was an IT specialist, and Gregory himself is a hacker, so either of them could do it. But the fact that the entity in the ER looks like a rabbit speaks in favor of Vanessa. It is unknown where she and Gregory left after that, but they probably have to hide now from Fazbear Entertainment and keep an eye on the Mimic, so he couldn't escape. Vanessa has a very small mention, or rather a possible mention, at the end of Ruin when Gregory tells Cassie what to do.
You need to get out of there now! How? My friend has access to the building maps. Just follow the instructions.
This unknown friend of Gregory must be Vanessa. She is the only realistic option, because there is no more characters who would have had the map of the underground while also being Gregory's friend. The elevator ending of Ruin kinda throws a possible shadow at Vanessa's character, but that depends on what you think about this ending. If Gregory was the one to drop the elevator, this automatically implies that Vanessa, who was somewhere next to him, was fine with Gregory doing that. Which could be an interesting turn for her character, to set up both Gregory and her as hardcore survivalists. But this is only a speculation, and we will need to see how the story will unfold next to say anything for certain. The final appearance of Vanny that we have right now happens in Help Wanted 2. Jeremy discovers Princess Quest 4, and the princess gives him her sword. Then he trades his Vanny mask for the plushie of Glitchtrap, with which Vanessa was talking in Help Wanted 1. Then something strange begins to happen. Jeremy ends up in a giant claw machine, and gives the Glitchtrap plushie to Moon. Moon delivers it to gigantic Vanny, who was staring at us this whole time. She takes the plushie and smashes Glitchtrap. This ending is so strange that it's hard to say what the hell happened here. The only understandable thing is that Glitchtrap is no more. But other than that, it's a soil for theorizing. An icing on the cake is that Vanny was supposed to have bigger role here as well. We can see that there were planned voice lines for her, and judging by them, it seems that she was supposed to guide us, so we could find that last piece of Glitchtrap's code. But the only thing that was left is this ending where she crushes him. And who is this Vanny is? Is this Vanessa herself somehow guiding Jeremy? Or this is just an echo of her Vanny alter ego that was left in the AR world? Sadly, right now there is no way to tell. Another game where Vanny was thrown aside. With Vanessa having so little in Security Breach, it's hard to give her much characterization. But it's not only because of her screen time. Remember, we never saw her without Glitchtrap, and so everything she does raises a question, was it really her? For a few examples, she didn't do anything to Gregory when she caged him. Is it because she can push back Glitchtrap a little bit, or because Glitchtrap wanted her to deal with Gregory in Vanny's style? She has purple nails. Is it because she likes the color, Or did Glitchtrap make her paint them because purple color is his signature? She usually sounds tired. Is it because she works overnight, or because she can't have a proper sleep, like Jeremy couldn't? These are the types of questions that always appear, and most of them can't be answered with certainty. However, some of them are much easier to talk about. For instance, we know that Vanessa had an abusive father, which probably made her much more susceptible to Glitchtrap. Or the email from Louis mentioned that Vanessa was searching for info about the migration of bees. And it's not the only time where Vanessa shows her fascination with nature. In one of the sessions with her therapists, she mentions that she likes reading outside. And in another session, her attention is distracted by the blue sky. In fact, this fascination with nature might give an explanation to a characteristic that Vanessa shows in Security Breach. We see several times how she bosses and threatens Freddy around, and Roxy was crying most likely because of her. It is not very clear if she does it because Glitchtrap demands results and forces her to do it, or because she doesn't value their lives and feelings. But it's not an uncommon trope for a character who cherishes nature to be not very fond of synthetic life. We can go into an even deeper speculation with Ruin in mind. We know that Glamrocks in Ruin were connected to mixes, and it's definitely possible that either Gregory or Vanessa did this to them. At least, it wouldn't be surprising. Even if Vanessa knew that Glamrocks were just victims, in her mind she still wouldn't have a reason to help them, if for her they're just machines. As you can see, Vanessa's character is full of speculations, and it's really unfortunate that she is absent in the books and help wanted too. It was nice to see that she had a much more important role in the film. I think we can say that in the FNAF movie she was indeed a reluctant follower, as she should have been in the games. But her future in the games might be brighter than it seems.
I think all those characters turned out great. In fact, I think this is why it's hard to pick a favorite, because all of them turned out so well. You know, I've always really liked Vanny as a character. I don't think that Vanny was utilized to her fullest potential, and so hopefully we'll see another opportunity for Vanny to return as well. We'll see.
Of course, this doesn't necessarily mean that either Vanessa or Vanny will get the screen time they deserve, but it certainly gives hope when Scott himself says something like this. Although with how popular is the idea of Cassie turning into Vanny, it's possible that this is what he was referring to. We can only hope that's not the case, as it is not too late to return Vanessa into the spotlight. But for now, this is all that we know about Vanessa. Thank you for watching. Press like and subscribe if you liked this video, watch another one if you want to. Good luck, and I'll see you again soon.